back been ripped out by the flood. Too deep to walk, too wide to swim, it would freeze my very soul just to walk down this highway in the cold.
You are listening to WOOP-LP, Cleveland, Tennessee. WOOP FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.
Where'd the old town go? They moved it on north of here in the shopping mall.
Good morning and welcome to Old Town Cleveland here on WOOP FM 99.9. I can't talk. Or www.woopfm.com, or you can call us here at 614-5553. Good morning, Debbie Moore. Tell me what's going on.
Good morning, Ron. It's May the 16th, 2015 already. Almost a half a year gone. We've almost completed 6 full years on Old Town Cleveland. That doesn't seem possible either.
I'm not going to tell you what the show is yet, because Deb always does that, but I'm already hungry just thinking about it.
Yes, we have been talking about.
I'm starving already.
Now, tell folks where you took me to eat this week for lunch.
I went to Mimo's Chopped Wieners on Martin Luther King Boulevard down in Chattanooga, and it's a historical place. A lot of the very famous musicians played upstairs there. People like Betsy Smith and B.B. King were down there before, and that whole area has changed over a few years. And so we went in there and had lunch, and we had chopped wieners.
It was very interesting, I will say.
Yeah, and that's, of course, we had been down to the Chattanooga Whiskey Place, and they give out samples, and so I would have went about anywhere after that.
That was a lot of fun too.
Yeah,
Chattanooga Whiskey. Hats off to them. They opened up in March. Business is booming. Of course, they started brewing the whiskey, 7 years ago?
7 years ago. They actually have some that old.
Yes, and we have invited them to be our guest here on Old Town Cleveland, and hopefully they'll come in here pretty soon.
You know that there were 20 distilleries right down on that area of town back before Prohibition. So Chattanooga was one of the leading producers of liquor in the country at one time.
Well, I'll have plenty to say about that on the day that we have them in here, because I think the Boston Tea Party wasn't about tea at all.
No.
But who was going to dump their whiskey in the bay?
Right.
So we'll talk about that more. Ron, we've been planning this show for a great long time, and I'm so glad to have these guys in with us. We have Charles Pigg, Steve Pigg, and John Pigg, and they are the sons of the world-famous Mr. Pigg that was the cafeteria manager at Bradley High School, and he did a lot of other things that these boys will be talking about.
A very well-known religious leader in our community.
Absolutely. Also. Just an all-around nice guy. And we'll be talking to them about their father here in a few minutes. And I wanted to tell folks, I think there might have been a little bit of confusion about when the car show is happening in downtown. Main Street Cleveland will be sponsoring the car show, and that's next Saturday on May the 23rd. Just wanted to make sure everybody knew that. Nobody showed up this.
And Fro's playing somewhere this weekend, isn't he?
Fro is playing at the B&B Marina. Rain or shine, 9 to 1. That's late at night, 9 to 1. And they'd love to have you there. It's the Convertibles playing at B&B Marina.
And I think next Saturday night, instead of Friday night, if it doesn't rain, the Cleveland Speedway is having a special race next Saturday night, from what I understand, I've seen.
A big Memorial Day race.
So I think it's on the 23rd. Is that next?
That's correct. That's correct.
All right.
And I really hate for them that it rained them out last night. But for some of you folks, I was on one side of town where it rained about 5 drops of rain. Well, we live down on the South Lee side, and we got massive amounts of rain. So that's what rained them out. When that infield gets wet, there's no racing going to happen that night, especially 2 hours before race time.
Good morning, gentlemen. How you doing today? Pull that mic over there to you there.
Wonderful.
Your dad, John Pigg, of course, I knew him the best from being at Bradley Central High School from 68 to 72, the last class of the old school. And I remember it very well. And on Thursdays was goulash day, and Friday was shrimp and baked beans, and they had hamburgers and hot dogs, and they had chicken, and what do you remember? This is your dad. What do you remember about him growing up? How did he get to Cleveland? Maybe that might be the first thing.
Not sure exactly how he got to Cleveland, but he ended up marrying a Cleveland girl.
That'll usually keep
That
you here,
usually
won't it?
gets you there.
So
And,
where was he from originally?
He was from the Rutledge, Bean Station, Poor Valley part of East Tennessee.
All right. So now you're John, right?
No,
Mr.
you're
Charles.
Charles. John. You're the oldest, right?
Right.
And where did were you here when growing up, or did?
Yes, I grew up. I had to move away probably in the 70s. So I was an engineer, and so I had to move out of Cleveland when Rust Engineering closed.
Mm-hmm. I remember that. Yeah.
And I moved back about 10 years ago, back home. So
So tell me one thing about your dad. No one knows. Did you get into trouble, or did he allow you?
Mm-hmm.
well, yeah, I got in a lot of trouble. Yeah, I sure did. But one thing I remember, he was pastor of small churches, and one time it was Big Springs Church of God.
Mm-hmm.
We used to have a lot of rabbit for Monday. I'd suffer because he could good at hitting rabbits on those dirt roads at night, Throw it in the trunk, and then we'd have rabbit the next day.
Could he cook rabbit as good as he did everything
it
else?
Was good. It was
Where
good.
did he learn to cook? Where did he learn to cook?
I think he started out working with Kern's Bakery up in Morristown, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where he got his probably start. And I don't know where he learned to cook the way he did. But it was all in his head. It wasn't.
Nothing was written
There was
down.
no recipes anywhere.
His rolls were pretty famous too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were.
Steve, what about you? You have any stories about your dad? Were you a perfect kid too?
I was the youngest and the most perfect, the smartest,
These other guys are
the best
shaking their head.
looking, and still am.
Oh, okay.
No.
One thing-
Now don't sit down there and lie.
One thing I do remember, and Charles always got all the stories from my grandmother. I never heard any of them. But when my dad passed away, I went to his safety deposit box, and I found his birth certificate, and called Charles. I said, Charles, you won't believe what I found in his safety deposit box, his birth certificate. And he said, what, his name was Moses? And I said, yeah. He was born Moses Pigg. And somewhere down the line, he changed his name to John William, which John was his dad's name, and William was a brother that had deceased back in the 20s, and he took their names at some point. I don't know when he did it, but
I'll tell you when my mother did that is when she applied for Social Security card to work for the first time. Her name had been something else, and everybody in the family had called her Tommy. And so when it got to the point that she had to do something official, she changed her name at the same time. I don't know if that was a common thing back then, or
I don't
that
know.
was just.
But I guess he didn't like Moses.
I guess he didn't like Moses. That's funny.
Well, that now what?
Now, how many children are? I'm sorry, Ron. How many children are in the family? In your family?
There's 4,
4.
3 brothers and 1 sister, Sarah.
Sarah, and where is Sarah?
She lives here in town, and we thought she was going to come today, but she backed out yesterday. But we hope she'll call in.
So we get to talk about Sarah.
We can talk about
Yes,
Sarah.
right.
Well, Steve,
She's the oldest.
Yeah, she can call us here.
She can call.
Yeah, later on.
Steve, this is the way it goes. I can always find men to be on this show, even to talk about something they have no idea what they're talking about. They'll come on the show, but it's really hard to get women to come in here for some reason.
Where all did I get it? John, Charles, and
Steve.
I'll get them all confused. Charles, where did he pastor at? I mean, he'd done a lot of churches here, and
He pastored the Big Springs, which is now, I believe, All Nations. 2 or 3 different times he pastored Pine Hill at least twice. He pastored Bancroft. He pastored over at Birchwood. For a while, he even pastored a church up in Kentucky for a short period of time. And then late, kind of his last one was he actually started a church. Was it Eastridge?
East Brainerd Church.
East Brainerd Church of
out
God.
on East Brainerd Road.
And he had helped start several churches. Dad had an 8th grade education and was self-taught. And when a church, he would take a church that was down and the attendance was down, the finances were down, and he would go in and build it up. And when the church get 125, 130, I think Dad felt that, that was the maximum that he could really pastor, because he always worked a second job our mother had a lot of health issues. And so he took a lot of churches and built them up where another pastor could come in and take over. So that was kind of the ministry he had, is building. He was really good at building the attendance, building a church up that was down.
Okay. Hey, John, where did he work at before Bradley High School? I mean, he came here and he said he was at Kern's Bakery.
Yeah, well, in Cleveland, when I was in elementary school, he was at Lee. He was at Lee College for, I guess, until I was through the sixth grade. And that's he had the cafeteria, and he had their bookstore and their snack shop. He ran at Lee.
Yeah.
Did he work? Did he work at some? I seen some pictures of bakeries here. Did he do anything locally with bakeries, or?
I don't know if he worked locally for a baker. I know he worked for Kern's Baker up in Morristown, Tennessee, but I don't know. I guess a lot of stories I didn't hear, because when I moved away, I missed out on a lot of what he did. I graduated in '61 at Bradley.
So what year did he start at Bradley?
58.
58.
He did work for Cleaners, and he did run a milk route. I know those are two things he did. And actually, there's a story that says that told that he worked at a bouncer at one of the beer joints here as a young man.
I can imagine that.
One of the men who had run it, I ran into, it was probably 40 years ago, and he told me a story about Dad weighed about 120 pounds at the time, and there was somebody acting up, and the road was still a mud road, which is now City Street, and he said he was acting up, and he said your dad got him by the scruff of the neck and the seat of the pants and threw him out in the mud in the street in front. So that's a part that not too many people knew, that he'd actually been a bouncer.
Well, I would have never thought that about him, but but like I say, he was. I knew him from Bradley High School. And just a very nice man, And
my last memory of him at Bradley High School was down at the New Bradley, and some young man had decided if he'd climbed up in the drop ceiling and went across, he might be able to see in the girls' bathroom. You know how teenage boys' minds work.
No, I've never thought of that.
And about halfway across there, here comes this leg down through the snack shop, and Mr. Pig has his leg hanging on to it, so he couldn't get away. And I just vividly remember that, thinking, okay.
Do you know the name of that student?
No, I didn't recognize his leg.
I think the statute of limitations over.
Somebody can call in and confess.
Yeah, somebody can do that. But that's good. So how long did he stay at the New Bradley?
Just 2 or 3 years. He wasn't there long.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't think he was there.
So 58 to, gosh.
He was 20 years total.
Had 20 years, yeah.
And I think at that same time, he did some buying or purchasing stuff for also Hopewell Elementary.
He actually ran the cafeteria at Hopewell at one point.
For a while, yeah.
And then was at Bradley Junior High for a while.
Mm-hmm. So did he get in 30 years with the school system, or?
Just 20. Oh, I'm sure he.
So 20 at nearly 20 at Bradley.
Yeah.
They're thinking maybe 30 years.
Oh, that's good.
That's really, and I think it goes back to like some of the folks that we've had on the show recently, where they start talking about, you just didn't have one job. You always had a bunch of jobs. That's what you had to do to take care of your families then. Before we went on the air, someone was talking about him and Mr. Gilbert, and I believe it was Steve, or was it Steve? Tell that story.
Arthur Gilbert told me it was probably a year before he passed away, and I was in the bakery, and he was telling me, he said, I owe your dad a lot. He said, when I moved down here from Knoxville and bought the Townhouse Bake Shop uptown, he said, your dad took me around to all the plants and all the businesses in town, introduced me to people, and he said, at the end of the day, I had a bakery route set up. And he said, that's the way I got established in business.
That was networking back in that day. And when
Right.
somebody they trusted showed up with them,
Mm-hmm.
they knew it was the right thing. Yeah. That's wonderful.
So now, tell me, your mother. You said she was a Cleveland person,
Right. She
Yeah.
was a Griffith.
a Griffith. Okay.
Right. She was out next to Moore's Chapel,
Morris Chapel.
uh,
Out on Lad Springs.
out on Ladd Springs. Right.
Mm-hmm.
As in Mel Griffith.
Yeah.
Or is that a different name? Is that the
No,
same name?
he's a cousin.
He's a
He's a
cousin.
cousin.
Okay.
You know, most of the roads out there are named for
The folks that
our-
live on. Yeah.
Griffiths or Hortons.
Griffiths, Horton,
Her mother was a Horton.
Mantooths.
Oh,
We were
okay.
related to some Mantooths, Keiths, you know, just about every road. Million Road,
It's
Yeah.
a relative.
all of those are relatives. So
That's correct. And she was a Griffith. Okay.
Okay. Now, what was and who were her parents?
Raymond and was it Ora?
Aura.
Ora.
Raymond and Nora. Okay.
Ora was a Horton.
Oh, okay. And where did they lived up next to Moore's Chapel?
They lived right before you get to Moore's Chapel. As a matter of fact, her brother Clyde, right across the street from the old home place, is where he lived, and he had a little store there, and he had a grinding mill
Yep.
where people would bring and get their meal ground, and he ended up working for Belleville Flour
Yeah. There you go.
after that.
And
But
then John's parents were who?
His dad died before I was born.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure, and I'm trying to remember what his mother's name was.
Molly.
Molly. Yeah.
And where were they? They weren't here in Cleveland, though.
No,
were
they were up. I mean, literally in the
Station.
mountains of East Tennessee.
You turned off of Highway 11 onto a little path road that went back about a half a mile to a mile off of the main highway, and in good weather you could turn off of that path down into the driveway to where he grew
So
up.
You turned off the gravel road onto the dirt
It wasn't
road.
a gravel road,
And then
it
to
was,
the path.
It was two tire.
Yeah.
It was two tire paths.
Use that third
with
level
grass in the
over, yeah.
middle.
Yeah.
So your grandparents that from the pig side of the family were still alive when you guys were small or not?
No.
Grandmother
Okay.
only.
Oh,
Mother
grandmother.
only.
Yeah.
Grandmother. So what was it like to go visit her?
Very rustic.
Right?
Very rustic.
Very rustic.
You didn't want
Yeah, I
to.
didn't want to. No.
No.
They had a cistern, not a
Yeah.
well. They didn't have an outhouse. They had a cane bottom chair out in the woods.
Yep.
And
Oh, my.
I mean, it was they were
Yeah.
back in the mountains. I mean, it was.
Well, it worked, didn't it?
I guess it did.
You guess it did.
It did.
You went before you got there.
And every time, just as we were leaving, my grandmother she called Daddy Bud. She'd say, "Now, Bud, this may be the last time you see your old mother. I don't know how much longer I'll be alive." And the old woman, though, stayed alive until we were getting ready to take a vacation trip to Dallas. And she died just before we were to leave, and we know she did it on purpose.
Now, did they have electricity in this cabin, or?
No,
No.
Oh, so they were very rustic.
very rustic.
Oh, they did have electricity when we were going.
Well, did they have it?
Yeah. But it had the wood stove, and I remember the inside of the house was papered with newspaper. Mm-hmm. It was very, very rustic.
Well, they lived with us. For his mother and his sister lived with us for several years in Cleveland.
So you have pictures of that house?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I do have some pictures of it.
That's good.
That's amazing that your father started there.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have to grow gardens and stuff when you got here? Was your dad into gardens?
Not after not after I was born. He wasn't.
The
He
only,
wouldn't have had time to.
the only
I'd
one
say he
place
wa-
we ever had a garden I remember was on Wildwood Avenue one time.
Yeah.
Where did you guys live on Wildwood?
Across the street from Williams Grocery, if you remember where Williams Grocery was, which is right before you got to Stoney's.
Okay, we know where Stoney's is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We really
Mary's Furniture,
Yes.
we lived in the house right beside it.
Okay. Okay, that I know. That I
we
know.
were there for what, 2 years?
No, we
About
lived
a
up
year.
on the hill there for a year and moved there a year. And
and
then
then-
he bought a house back on Parker Street because that's where we had lived earlier before he left there and actually went to Chattanooga and pastored Main Street Church of God for a year. And then we moved to Tullahoma, and he pastored there for a year. And when he came back is when he went to Bradley High. But he actually started with Lee University in 1948. I believe it was when they moved to Cleveland.
Took over.
So what year did your dad was born?
17,
1970.
How old was he when he passed?
88.
88.
Wow. Did he serve in World War II?
No.
No.
Now, Charles, you might tell him about his hunting accident. He wouldn't have been able to serve in the military.
He wouldn't have been able. He had a hunting accident. He was hunting, and the dog. The story I heard, the dog somehow hit the gun and caused it to go off. And when it did, it blew the thumb off of one hand, 3 fingers, the top joint off of the other hand. And even up until his 80s, there would be shot work itself out of his chest. Where it was there. He was pretty bad shape for a while, I understand. My sister was just a baby at the time. So he would not, without that thumb and that other part of those 3 fingers, he couldn't serve.
No, he couldn't.
Hey, folks, you're listening to Whoop FM 99.9. This is Old Town Cleveland. Today we got John, Charles, and Steve Pig in here talking about their dad, John Pig. We'll remember him from Bradley Central High School in the cafeteria. You can call us here at 614-5553. The phones are now open, so give us a call. Once again,
Steve, you graduated from Bradley.
Yes,
What-
1966.
66.
and the rest of you, now you taught at Bradley, right? What
Yeah.
years was you at Bradley?
I taught at Bradley 71 through 74.
You must have taught real smart classes because I didn't have you. I graduated in class of 72.
The
of
good
course.
kids.
The good kid,
Yeah.
yeah.
What did you teach, Charles?
I taught kids.
Yeah, not kids.
I taught
What subject did you?
I taught 1 year physical science. I actually took over physical science class when Leon Austin went to the central offices. And then when Roy Farmer went to central offices, I taught biology and taught that the last year at the old school and the first year at the new school. And that was taught 1 year there, and that was my last year.
And we got a call here. Good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning.
Good-
My name is, former name is Waddell. I was just going to say that I was in grammar school when Reverend Pig pastored Birchwood Church of God, and my father used to furnish fresh vegetables and corn. He would take it to Reverend Pig at the high school. When I was in just a kid at home, it was the Waddell Farm on Parker Loop in Birchwood. I remember going to the school, I think it was Bradley, with my father. I went with my father everywhere to take vegetables to Reverend Pig, and it was, I remember the stairwell at the back of the school. He would go up, my dad would go up the stairwell to the back door and take the vegetables to Reverend Pig. That's one of the things I remember. I don't remember too much about him pastoring the church because I was pretty small back then, but I remember going with my dad to take vegetables to Reverend Pig, and that would had to be the late 50s or maybe around 58 or 60, somewhere along in there. But I just want to say hi to the Pig family. I've known them for years and years. I live here in Cleveland now. I'm married to Larry Ledford. But I just want to say hi to the Pig family, and it's so good to hear from them. And I appreciate them very much. So you guys have a good day.
Thank you so much for
Yeah,
calling.
thank you for calling.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy hearing you on the radio.
Thank
All right,
you.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
There's
I love our callers.
that You know, I guess you couldn't buy fresh vegetables and use them in the schools anymore now.
No, you can't do that anymore.
There's so many regulations now. Charles, where did you go to school? I mean, John, excuse me. Pull the mic around there. Yeah.
I graduated from Bradley in '61, and then I went to Lee College for the 2 years, a 2-year school. Then I went there, played basketball for a couple of years.
61 was a pretty good basketball year, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
pretty,
that was Sloan, and who else was there?
yeah, Lloyd Hewitt, and let's see, yeah, I can't remember some of them, but yeah,
Gibson.
no, Gibson,
Look.
yeah, he was a little bit later,
Yeah.
yeah, but the ones I played with at Lee was, of course, Dale Hughes, Boog Sherlin, and Billy Miller, another one from Cleveland guys, you know.
Yeah. A couple of those guys turned out all right.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say which ones, but you know,
right.
Miller and Boog was pretty good.
Yeah,
But I'm not going to mention any names. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So, and then you went on and you became an engineer. Is that
Yes,
right?
an engineer.
And where did you work at? I knew you
I
worked at
worked-
Rust.
Yeah, I worked at Rust here in where the hill at Bowaters. When they closed that down, I moved to Kansas City for 4 years. Worked for a company. Then I moved to Atlanta, and I worked for a company there until I moved back 10 years ago here to Cleveland.
Atlanta wasn't
Charles,
that far
are
away.
you in Texas now?
I'm in Plano, Texas.
Plano.
What kind of work have you done, Charles?
I worked for the company on the cable system there at one time.
I just retired from Bank of America after 26 years in technology. I was responsible for a lot of the design, a lot of the implementation, as well as the teams over the years in developing and supporting fraud systems. In fact, was blessed after age 60. I have several patents, and mine may not be very good anymore, but was able to do a few things that
Very interesting.
kind of things that would have made Dad proud. He always wanted to know we did well.
Well, I think all of them made him proud. Go ahead, Steve. You.
Well, I started out at Magic Chef years ago and ended up with a fabric company, Culp. When they closed down, I went into business for myself, and I've had a small business bookkeeping tax service for about 28 years.
You can give out the number if you want people to call you.
Well, I'm in the process of...
You're getting quitting.
I'm not quitting. I'm just
relaxing,
slowing way down.
You don't like April 15th as much as you used to.
I don't like deadlines.
Yeah. Well, you.
Whenever they are.
Yeah. Well, there, I guess, are April 15th, and you have another one, then another.
Every 2 or 3 weeks, there's deadlines. Year round.
So, too late if you wanted Steve to take care of your books. Unless you got $1 million, and he could probably handle you then.
If they paid me $1 million.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, they pay you $1 million, not just.
Ron, for just a moment, would you talk about the restaurant exhibit that's going to be down at the Museum Center at 5 Points?
Yeah, since we're talking about food, and we're going to talk more about goulash in a few minutes. The museum, starting in July, last week of July, they're going to open an exhibit up, a special exhibit about the eateries or restaurants here in town. Not just restaurants, but they're going to feature about 7 restaurants will be their main feature, but they may talk about others. So we need, if you have old materials from the Chow Now, which was down on South Lee Highway, the Rebel, which sort of come the same thing.
Evolved from the Chow Now.
Right, yeah, the Chow Now, and then of course the Grand Lunch, which was down on First Street, not Second, but First Street. Then the Spot, everybody knows that. The Ever Ready Cafe, which was over in what we call the Ward, 6th Ward, there right on Inman Street. And they had very good food there, meatloaf and fried chicken.
Snack House.
The Snack House number 2, particularly, down on Edward Street. Is it Edwards? Yes. They're...
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, at
Edwards,
the depot.
At the depot, right, that way. What was the other one? The Grand Lunch.
Mm-hmm.
The Grand
The
Lunch.
Spot.
And the Spot. And there's a couple others.
Which, by the way, is open. And we went in and had hamburgers the other day, and they're quite good.
And we had breakfast there, too. They also do breakfast at the Spot now, so that's unique. And so we like it up there. And so, but that exhibit's going to open. So if you have, and Dooley's Ice Cream.
Yes. They need furniture.
Yeah,
or
if you have anything, if you have old menus or old pictures or even stories, about those areas there, please do that. I know that we're working on there will be a Dooley's sign will be there. We're pretty sure. Some tables and chairs, most likely. Some plates and old things that
ice cream dishes
that some guy had stolen and give to us.
We have stolen property at our house from
Statute
1950s.
Statute limitations on an ice cream, Sunday dish, I guess what they call it. So
we have some banana split boats.
And if you have pictures of the people who worked there also while they were working inside that, the museum needs that. There's some other things. There's going to be a very special treat if you're a member. We can't tell you what it is, but you need to sign up and become a member of the museum, and you'll be involved in this very, very special treat the night before. You get to see the exhibit before anybody else does, and there's going to be a special treat.
And you need to see Sam at the Museum Center. He's there Tuesday through Saturday, and if he's not there, someone else will talk to you about your items. If you have pictures, he'll go ahead and scan them and give you back your original pictures. Anything that you can loan them, they would really appreciate it, and we would too. We want it to be a really nice, big exhibit. Now, Ron mentioned those 7, but they're also collecting pictures and things from other places that might be included in some kind of special exhibit down there.
There are all kinds of Cedar Lane. There's the 411 Cafe. There's, you can name them.
Charles, do you remember any of those places that you ate at those places?
I do, and talking about the snack house, I worked at Tip Top when Toby Taylor first opened it, and Clarence Neese used to let me go to lunch with him on Saturdays, and we would go over Clarence and I have eaten there for lunch and dinner quite a few times, and I was just between my sophomore and junior year in high school, and made a real impression on me.
I understand they had great hamburger steaks.
And you turned out all right even spending time with Clarence.
I turned out all right.
Hey, we got a call. Good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning. This is Dennis Watkins.
Hey, Dennis.
I am a friend of the Pig family, and proud to say so. And when I heard about this show today, I was very happy, and I told Steve that I would certainly be happy to try to call in and give a memory about their wonderful dad.
Well, go right ahead.
Well, thank you very much. I work for Church of God, the international offices there at Keith and 25th, and for years I have been part of a ministry or activity there wherein we pray, which I guess is a good idea since we are a church.
Yeah.
And
so, practice what you preach.
Yeah, I started out there years ago, over 20 years ago, and there was a group that was begun by Reverend Charles Beach, or Dr. Charles Beach, wonderful man, and we had many retired ministers and missionaries that were part of that prayer group. We pray every Wednesday, and are still doing so, by the way, and so we had a wonderful group of folks there, of which Brother John Pigg was a member and was a faithful member. You could set the clock by him every Wednesday. He would be there on time, right there, right in the middle of it, and praying every Wednesday. When Dr. Beach died in 2000, I believe it was November of 2000, they asked me to take over this activity, which I gladly did, and of course, Brother Pigg was faithful as well. So my memory of him is that of a very faithful person of prayer, a very punctual, on-time guy that was, if he told you he was going to be there, he was going to be there. He was there every week, and he prayed fervently and earnestly. I just think he was a wonderful guy. I did not meet him until late in his life, so I did not hear or know a lot of things about him until that time, but I enjoyed hearing some of the things about him today on the show.
Well, thank you, Dennis, for calling. We appreciate it.
And guys, you got anything? You know him, right?
Oh, yeah. Dennis is actually, he's very modest, I guess, but Dennis is the legal counsel for the Church of God. So,
all right.
And a very good friend to our family.
Dennis, thank you so much for calling in and for listening.
And thank you for doing this show about a wonderful man.
We try to do good things every week.
Okay. Have a great one.
All right. Bye-bye. Sometime we have success. Hey, Mr. Burris, how you doing today?
Doing fine. Fine.
What are you doing here?
I just want to drop in and thank Mr. Pig for being such a nice fellow. I was there from 1958 to 1962 at Bradley. Did a great job. I do remember the goulash and I remember fish on Friday, but very, very good example of a human being, and I appreciate his dedication and hard work.
Well, thank you, Bob. That I agree with you. Like I say, and it's still goulash on Thursdays when I got there, and then was my favorite and everything. I have a picture up on the screen if you're looking on the internet. Who can name those people in that picture?
Well, I can name 3 of them. I know my dad's on the right, my mother's right beside him, and this Clarence Scoggins on the left side, and I can't make out the other 2. Charles may know who they were.
I'm not sure. I'm not
Keep
sure.
talking there. I've got her name. Hold on a second. I'll find it.
It's live radio.
I'm not sure if that was DeLay, Estella DeLay.
That's the short lady.
The short
I
one's
think.
Estella
Yeah.
DeLay, I beulieve.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not Rosanna Scoggins, is it?
Beulah.
I can't
Beulah
tell.
something.
Beulah?
Beulah, and because her granddaughter said, that's my grandmother there, and had never seen this picture. And I'm trying to find it where she said that.
Well, we can find it during the break, Ron. Let me ask you guys something. You know, today when kids are at school, we have a lot of kids that are on free and reduced lunch because the program's there and because their parents don't have enough money. What did your dad do back in the day when someone couldn't eat because they had no money?
They ate anyway.
That's what I figured.
They
He
ate
just
anyway.
he just knew who they were and he just fed them.
I've had several people tell me that they wouldn't have eaten if it hadn't been for him. And how he knew, I don't know, but he knew who couldn't afford it.
Mm-hmm.
And the meals were only 28 cents
Yeah.
at that time.
I remember them being pretty cheap.
Do you know, John? You know
I mean-
anything about it?
He just made sure everybody got fed.
Right.
Right.
He would never talk about things like that.
Right.
They were just things he
That's
did.
just what you do. Yeah. Well, I was just curious about that. I was just wondering if he had, maybe jobs for him to do. I know in the elementary schools, a lot of times that's what happened.
Yeah. Well, I know that he did have some students too that would help him there in the kitchen doing different things. And I think maybe that's another way that he would help them.
Right.
out.
I remember some students would work there. Folks, you're listening to Old Town Cleveland here on Whoop FM 99.9, or you can go to the internet at www.whoopfm.com. You can call us like this caller at 614-5553. Good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning, Ron.
Hey, Red.
Hey,
how you
Red.
doing?
I just wanted to ask them if anybody, when they went to school, if anybody ever teased them about their name.
And being the cafeteria manager?
Yeah.
Go ahead, John.
All right. They all just kind of grinned, Red.
Still do.
They still do, he said. They still do.
Well, I called my kids pigs when they was growing up, so.
Yeah. Did you guys have funny CB handles or something?
Country ham.
Country ham. What about, yeah, that is funny. What about you, Steve?
Mine was Porky.
Porky Pig. And did you have one, John?
I can't remember. It's been too long.
Oh, well, I'm sure it had pig in it somewhere.
Yeah.
John said he's the straight-laced one of the bunch.
It used to be
remember
really funny to go to people's house, and they'd say, "Oh, our house is so messy, it looks like a pig pen," or they'd say, "Our kids look just like little pigs," and then they kind of catch themselves.
Well, Brett, I was going to ask the same question. I'm glad you did. That I didn't have to do the embarrassing one. No, but it was sort of comical to the students is that our cafeteria manager's name was Pig.
Mm-hmm.
But after you ate the goulash, no one ever laughed again.
But, kids can be mean and cruel.
Oh, yeah. But you know what? It didn't seem like they were when I don't ever remember them being. Yeah, I'm sure that we had jokes and things going around. But
I was always a good kid. I wouldn't do something like that.
Okay, but
now we're lying.
you have to understand that you're talking to someone named Ron Moore.
Right.
So when they called his name in school, they called him Moore Ron.
And he answered.
And he answered every time.
I've lived up to it for years now.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye, Red.
Thank you, Red. That is a good point there. But I never heard anybody was mean about it or anything. I mean,
Well,
I'm sure we all
they
had
were.
a joke.
We
tried
had
to be.
more fun with it than
Yeah.
anybody else did. As a matter of fact, in high school, when my name was called, I would usually oink
Yeah.
instead of answering here. So
I think
Well-
your oldest brother started that at Lee, and we just kind of followed it, and we've all done that.
So you didn't have a nickname or handle or
See if he
anything?
handle. He's not admitting to it.
No, he's not going to.
Well, I know it. Most of the people at work, my initial is JD, and you'd call me JD Boss.
Oh.
Boss hog.
Hog, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. So, let me. Did your dad cook at home? Did you get to eat all this good cooking, or did he say, "I'm tired, I'm not fixing you dinner"?
Our mother was an excellent cook also, but Mother had a lot of health issues, and we did eat a lot of Daddy's cooking. In fact, up until probably a couple of years before Dad, when he passed away, every time I would come to town, one morning he would make me breakfast because he was going to have country ham, red-eye gravy, biscuits, regular gravy, and eggs.
Come
He wanted
hungry.
to he wanted to make sure I had my country ham and red-eye gravy, though, every time I would come in. And he did that probably until the last couple of years.
Yeah, something else he did was he had in the cafeteria. You could, if you didn't want a plate lunch, which young kids saying I don't want vegetables, and he had a hamburger and a hot dog. And they were about a quarter a piece or something. And the hot dog had some kind of chili on it. That was so good. I remember that like it was yesterday.
I remember the barbecue sandwiches wrapped up in that
wax paper.
wax paper, and you could see the red through it. Yeah, it was good. It was good.
And a pickle on it.
A pickle, yeah.
Yeah.
So what was your favorite thing that he could fix there then?
At school, it was on Tuesday. It was macaroni and cheese and the beef stew.
Oh, I don't remember that. I probably ate a hamburger that day. What about you?
Mine wasn't maybe what he fixed himself. He got me hooked on those chocolate burgers.
Oh.
That he used to have in there from the bake shop. And another thing, when I would come in to visit, from Atlanta, he would always have me a bunch of raisin fried pies made for me to take back with me.
fried
And I don't know anybody else that makes them. I
I-
hadn't been
I-
able to find them, but boy, they were delicious.
That sounds
So
good.
that's one of my favorite things was raisin fried pies.
Raisin. So that's a good one. Yeah. What about now? Stadium Barbecue makes all kind of weird fried pies over here. They make German chocolate cake and banana pudding fried pies. We're going to have to talk to them about raisin now. Steve.
well, my favorite is always fried chicken. Still is.
Now, a lot of these places now buy that stuff already cooked, and they just thaw it out and heat it up.
No,
That didn't happen back those days, did it?
no.
How did he put out? I know it. When I was at Bradley in '72, we were close to 2,000 students there. I mean, how did he put out enough food? And the kitchen wasn't big back in those days. It wasn't a huge kitchen. How did he put out 2,000 meals or to that?
I have no idea.
Yeah, and it was one place where you basically stayed and eat. Of course, now some of you may have slipped out to the little snack house. What was it? The snack house across the street?
Snack House, Zesto,
Yeah, right across the street over there was a little
get
place.
this
Blair Cunningham.
Yeah, you could smoke over there. I think it's the other reason you went there. Go ahead, caller. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Hey, Ron. This is Brenda Moore.
Hey, Brenda.
Oh, hey, Brenda. How you doing, sister?
I'm good. I just want to say that Steve was one of my teachers at Big Spring Elementary School.
That was Charles.
That's Charles. He
Was it
said.
Charles?
Yeah, the good-looking one.
Okay.
All I can say is, Charles, bless your heart.
I just wondered if he remembered any of the children, that went there. I was a Randolph.
Randolph.
Yes, I do.
I can't imagine why you'd remember Brenda.
And I can imagine he could remember Faye Hodge and, Tommy Caldwell, Keith Pike, and all those.
Oh, yes.
I still remember all
Oh,
of them.
yeah. Actually, they were good kids.
Yeah.
They were good kids. And, that was from an area that wasn't wasn't one of the better parts of town sometimes.
No.
But there were some wonderful kids there, and a lot of them have done extremely well. I actually hear from a lot of them on Facebook from time to time, and some really nice comments from when I taught there.
Right. Well, we liked you. We liked you a lot, and you was probably one of my favorite teachers. Don Goff was not my favorite teacher.
Just go ahead and mention names, Brenda.
And Miss Hamilton, she would slam that paddle or ruler down, and she would yell, "Randolph Buckner, shut up!" And that would be Diane Buckner. So, but I just want to say also that we've lost a few of our kids, from grade school. We lost Ray Bain, and we lost Gary Wilson, and then recently Dean Moses to cancer. So that's a sad note, but I just want to say that I appreciate you, Charles. You was a great teacher.
Thank you very much.
How about that?
Make an old man feel good.
Yeah, and I loved your dad, too. Your dad was a good man. So, but just anyway, I just wanted to say hi, and hope y'all have a nice day.
Thanks for calling, Brenda.
Bye-bye.
That's always good to hear from those people like that. Now, did you just go to church with your dad where he was pastoring at, or did you have your own church?
Well, up until we got married, and then we went wherever we wanted to go then. But
I'll take this call. Hey, good morning, you're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Hey, this is also a pig. Actually, I'm John's son.
Oh, great.
Hey.
How are you?
I am doing good. I'm watching you guys online and listening to you.
Morning, David.
Wave at him there.
I've probably got a lot of stories about.
They're all waving at you, David.
That they don't remember.
Well, go ahead and tell us one there.
Well, actually, one of the biggest things that I can think of is I guess I was spending a week with him. I probably was, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5, maybe 5. And we were in the grocery store, and he knew everybody in town. I don't know which grocery store we were in, but he was at the checkout and was, talking to the bag boy and talking to the cashier, and I was just like grabbing myself saying, "Papal, I got to go pee. Hang on. And he just kept talking, and finally I just had to go right there.
Oh, no.
And he said, he used to tell that story, and he said from then on, anytime I said I had to go pee, he stopped what he was doing and took me.
It only takes once. Yeah, that's right.
It only takes once.
Yeah. I found out the hard way when my granddaughter said she was sick. The next time she says she's sick, I will believe her.
Right.
Yeah. Ooh, what a miss.
Yeah. So, you got any stories on your dad you want to tell?
He looked kind of worried.
No, nothing on my dad.
Okay. Yeah. Well, he's still alive. He can still get you, eh?
That's right.
Was he very strict on you?
I would say he was pretty strict.
That's all right.
Well, that's good.
That's not a bad thing.
It was a good thing, though.
You can say that now. At that time, though, it didn't seem too good, did it?
No, absolutely not.
Well, I just tell my daughter, she's raising a couple of young ones now that, that paybacks are hell. She's getting a little of it now.
Thank you so much for calling.
All right, well, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, bye.
Love my uncles, too.
Yeah. They're smiling.
Bye-bye.
I wanted to come.
Where does he live at?
David.
Ackworth, Georgia.
Georgia. Okay.
Who's in the picture that we're looking at now?
Is that all of you?
That's us.
That's us. Okay. Oh, I see. It's Reverend Pig on the left and your mother. What was your mother's name?
Gladys.
And the 3 boys and the 1 daughter, Sarah.
Yep.
That wouldn't come defend herself today. So y'all can just tell any story you want to on Sarah.
Who's the tallest? Is that you, John?
Right.
And then you're the shortest, Steve? Okay. You were the youngest one, right? Mm-hmm. So now what's the age differences between you?
From Sarah to the baby.
Sarah's the oldest. She's
3 years between her and me. 3 years between me and Charlie. 2 years between them.
Okay. Yep. Just about 3 years between
so
all of them.
You're all about 45, 50 now?
35.
35.
Yeah.
Can't remember.
So what was that song, 39 and Holden?
Yeah. Graduated in 1961. Okay. Right. That's modern math there.
They're figuring it out here.
No, I want to just remind everybody that the US 11 yard sale's going on this weekend, and please be careful out there. and don't do any crazy parking like I've
So
seen.
if
some
you
people
don't
do.
have enough junk at your house,
Go
you
buy
can
you
go
some-
out on US 11, all along US 11, and buy somebody else's junk and take to your house.
Ron kept saying yesterday,
that
"Do you
works?
want to stop?" I was going, "No, don't need anything else in our house."
Yeah.
And then our good friend Anthony Dunn is operating G Daddy's Barbecue, and I believe they're serving lunch now from 11 to 2 o'clock, Tuesday through Friday, at the facilities up at Cleveland State. You go just beyond
The tennis court.
the tennis court, and it's called the Innovation Center or something.
Right.
And he's located around back. It'll be where you see the smoke from the smoker coming usually.
If you hear gunshots, they have a firing range right out there.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
And he's also caters a lot. And if you need his services, you can find him at 559-7801. And we've had him cater a lot of our family activities, and he does an excellent job.
Oh, yes, very good.
He does apple smoked chicken. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, I think he provided, we catered our Thanksgiving dinner last year, didn't
Yes, he did.
yeah. That was the way to do it.
That's the way to
yeah.
do it, because I don't wrestle that turkey too well. I get tired of dealing with them.
And another place that we always try to tell people that we go, we went up to Tellico Plains, and we went to...
He's looking at me. The Tellico Granary.
Right. It's sort of a artsy type sandwich there, but they make their own bread. And if you like really hot, spicy mustard, that's what they put on there. So I warn you, when you order mustard, be ready to have an extra drink, or tell them no mustard. How's that? So, but it was very good.
I enjoyed it, but I think I would have enjoyed bringing one of those big loaves of bread home and toasting it and eating butter and toast just as much.
Right. So just, if you have a time to go out and do little day trips or something on Saturdays, something like that, it's a great place to go. And there's a great barbecue place across there. Did you go out and eat when you were younger, or since your dad cooked all day long? And families didn't used to go out and eat like we do today. Did
Right.
you ever go out and eat back in those?
Yeah, I remember times we used to go to Bees in Chattanooga. That
Oh,
was a big
yeah.
thing. And also once a year when we were kids, we'd go to Chattanooga to buy our shoes once a year, and we'd always go to the Crystal. That was a big thing too.
Oh yeah,
that was
the original
one
Crystal downtown.
Right.
Right. Yeah,
So,
that's.
But other than that, no, we didn't really go out that much. But I remember Bees is one of the main places we used to go drive down and stand in line for.
It was very rare that you went
Well-
out to eat. There's we didn't really have what we call drive-ins, like drive McDonald's and the drive-through
Right.
things.
No.
Except the chow now was you actually drove through the garage and got your food. I don't know if you remember that. They had the garage in the back. You actually drove through the building, literally, to get. It was the old Studebaker dealership at one time, I believe what it was. And you drove. It was a car dealership. I can't remember. But they opened the bay door and you drove into the repair section, and they bring your hamburger out to you. So it was the first drive-through restaurant. Literally, it was a drive-through. And of course, you go across the street to Sugar and Spice and Pasquale's up the
But
street.
everything was family owned.
Yeah.
I would think at one point in time, all the restaurants in Cleveland were family
I
owned.
don't know of any chain.
The Tinsley's owned several.
I guess Kentucky Fried Chicken
May
may
have
have
been
been
the
one of the
first
first ones.
franchise.
Hardee's and a couple of those things. And
I believe Kentucky Fried was here first.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember Kentucky Fried out here on Emmons Street, Steve?
Actually, it started out, I believe, as Marty's Fried Chicken.
Oh, really? I don't
And,
remember that.
My brother-in-law, Jim Hughes, worked there when he attended Lee University. And I remember walking
so
down
that was
there.
the England family. They started it.
I'm not sure who he worked for. Now,
Okay.
if you could get my sister to call in,
Yeah.
she could probably tell you that.
Well, we
but,
may call her in a minute.
we can do that.
Is she awake yet?
I hope so.
Well, if she's not, that'd be better. Wake her up and catch her off guard.
But Jim worked for, and I know they used to get the chickens whole, and he I'd been down there and watched him cut the chickens up before they cooked them.
Yes, I remember when you get a
I'd say
bucket of
that
chicken
was
for $4 or $5. Wasn't that great?
That was probably something local there. That sounds like it.
Well, it turned into the
Kentucky
it's right
Fried.
where the Kentucky Fried was.
I know that John England came on, and he said on Sundays they'd have to have a police officer out there directing traffic, that there were so many people driving, and that you couldn't go in and eat. You just drove through and got a bucket of chicken. And the building doesn't look big enough to me to do that.
And of course, now as I've got older, I have to watch what I eat now. It's not, I sure would like to have
He looks
another
at
big
every
juicy
bite.
hamburger or that fried chicken. I go, grilled chicken, please. Did you get to go to the movies? I know your dad was involved in the Church of God.
No.
Probably a little stricter than.
No.
Let's talk about that.
no.
Let's talk about that, boys. What?
So when's the first
No.
time you ever got to go to a movie?
Got to go or we went on our own.
Yeah, that's
Both.
what we're asking.
Both. Yeah, when did you go on your own?
I actually was in college when I went the first time.
What about you?
Yeah, I was in the Army in basic training when I went on base there. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Hold a
Did you
second.
feel like your dad was watching you over the back of the seat?
You didn't call him and tell him what you watched, did you?
No.
No, didn't admit to it at all.
Good morning, live on Old Town Cleveland.
This is Sarah Hughes.
Hey.
Hi,
Hey,
Sarah.
big sis.
Y'all are talking about me. So
Yeah, that's right. Call in and defend yourself. Sarah, what do you remember about your father?
Oh, I just remember, I remember a lot of the things that we used to do. He'd take us on picnics and go rent a boat, take us out boat riding, and on holidays, especially like the 4th of July, Mother'd get up and fix us a picnic lunch, and we'd drive up to Parksville, and it would be so crowded we'd end up coming back home and eating in the backyard.
There you go. We were talking about the chicken restaurant, Marty's. Do you remember who owned that?
Do you remember who owns? He said it was a Marty guy from Chattanooga.
Okay, so it was something locally owned, and then probably Kentucky Fried Chicken just took them over, or bought them out or something. That's very interesting.
Didn't you work for them when they first opened? Right after they opened, it's when you went to work for them.
I have never heard it called Marty's before. That's something I'll have to remember.
Now, which one of the brothers irritated you the most?
All three of them.
All three of them.
Well, you used to terrify me with tickling me, and now you can tickle me all you want. It doesn't bother me.
It doesn't bother you anymore. Well, Sarah, you got any more stories on these guys?
No, I won't tell none of them.
Now, your dad, when he was at Bradley High School, I mean, you know, everybody that I went to school said he was the best cafeteria manager that they had ever had through school. And it was just amazing. And so do you cook like him?
He went after I graduated.
Oh, okay.
I graduated in May of '58, and he went to work when school started in September that year.
There you go.
So,
we know exactly.
Because I was going to say if you cooked like him, I was going to say what time was lunch.
Well, I try to. He taught me how to do a few things. He taught me how to cook my Thanksgiving turkey and make dressing and things like that. And, of course, Mother taught me some, too.
Mm-hmm. Sarah, do you have any idea where he learned to cook for the... I mean, to be able to cook and to cook for the masses are two different things.
I really don't know. All I know is he started cooking when he lived in Knoxville.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he came down here, I can't remember. Seemed like he worked for somebody here, but I don't remember who.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember him working for the milk company and the cleaners.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one day he had a little accident, and it just scared me to death when he came home because he'd been in a car wreck.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So he delivered milk to people's houses?
Yeah, this was back when you bought the milk and set it on the front porch, picked up their empty bottles.
Mm-hmm. There were several different people that owned creameries that did that, but I wouldn't know where to start to guess. It may have been the same person that owned the cleaners, though.
It might have been. I don't know.
It was the name of it was Grand Patton. That was the early Golden Gallon.
Oh, okay. Was that here? Okay. That's not Cleveland. That was Knoxville.
No, that was in Cleveland.
Oh, it was in Cleveland.
Grand Patton in Cleveland. Okay. I remember.
Oh, I don't remember that. But
there's a picture of him somewhere with a holder of milk on a front porch, but I haven't seen it in many years.
Sarah has it. Yeah. You need to go visit Sarah with a scanner.
Yep.
I have all of Mother's old pictures.
Good deal.
Well, make sure that you get you some white labels and write down who's in all those pictures.
You are listening to WOOP-LP,
Sorry,
Cleveland,
Sarah.
Tennessee.
Hold on there,
FM
Sarah.
is a
We'll talk.
broadcasting service.
I'll stop that thing.
That's an automatic thing that comes on at 11. And
Well,
we
it
jump
won't-
every time.
It won't if you'll push the right buttons over here. It won't come
Okay.
on at 11, but it did today.
So you have your mom's pictures.
what-
Yeah, Ron's right. You need to identify the people in the pictures and maybe what they're doing.
We tell everybody to do that, because
Yeah.
it gets so hard every day. You look at it and say, I remember that person, but I can't tell you their name today. I do that.
Well, there's some of them that go back into her early years that I don't know who they are.
Oh,
Some
yeah.
of them have names on them, and some of them don't. So some of them I don't know who they are.
So that just proves the reason you ought to start today. The guy said they didn't get to go to the movies when they were young. When was the first movie you got to go to?
Well, I went to a movie when this was before Daddy came into the church, to see Lum and Abner.
Yeah.
Back in 1945 probably, and I got the measles.
Oh.
And then he got the measles. So we didn't go to any more movies.
Well, Sarah,
I didn't go to another one until I was grown.
There you go. Well, thanks, Sarah, so much for calling. And if you feel that you want to call back in, be sure to do that today.
Particularly if they say something about you or something, you need to.
You can defend yourself.
Right.
Thank you, sweetie.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Deb,
We
tell us.
we need to remember today, as we're going to take about a 5 or 10 minute break, guys, and we're going to play Gone Home. Sorry, my brain's trying to do 4 things at once. And I want us to especially remember a local educator that passed this week, Miss Helen Lee. And she taught for a number of years and was very well known. And of course, we can't go without mentioning B.B. King this morning. What a pioneer he was in the music world, and we've lost him now. We're going to take just a few minutes, and we'll be right back with you. And we're talking to the family of John Pig today.
Check into cash. The cash you need is closer than you think.
Get an auto title loan today for up to $2,500 at Check Into Cash.
You drive home with the cash in your pocket.
Visit Check Into Cash for an auto title loan today, or get a payday advance for up to $425. Call toll-free 877-262-CASH. Title loan amount determined by value of car and ability to repay. Borrowers often use payday advances over a period of months, which can be expensive. Restrictions apply. See store for details.
If you need a little green, Lending Frog is making deals. He'll lend you cash on any kind of wheels. Borrow just a little, or you can borrow big. Lending Frog is a new financial gig. It's hip to hop into cash. LendingFrog.com is making a splash. Dig it, dig it. Dig it, dig it.
Whoop FM is a non-profit community radio station that is made possible by generous donations by individuals and the following sponsors.
Saturday, Saturday, Saturday. Cleveland Speedway, it's races. Saturday, Saturday, Saturday. The Cleveland Speedway in Cleveland, Tennessee. Races start at 7 o'clock. For tickets or information, call 421-3695. That's 421-3695. Listen to win a family 4-pack on Whoop Radio Friday at 4 o'clock. It's the Cleveland Speedway this Saturday. Go to the races, Cleve Vegas. Saturday, Saturday, Saturday. Cleveland Speedway, the racing station.
All of my friends that I loved yesterday have gone home. They have gone home. Gone home. They have gone home. The songbirds are singing, the dells seem to say have gone home. They have gone home. Gone. They have gone home. They've joined the heavenly fold. They're walking the streets of pure gold. They left one by one as the work here was done. gone home. They have gone home. Gone home. They have gone home. Life here is lonely since they've gone before. Gone. They have gone home. Gone home. They have gone home. The old weeping willow that stands by the door sadly sighs. They have gone home. Gone home. They have gone home. They've joined the heavenly fold. They're walking the streets of pure gold. They left one by one as the work here was done. Gone home. They have gone home. Gone home. They have gone home. They've joined the heavenly fold. They're walking the streets of pure gold. They left one by one as their work here was done. Gone home. They have gone home. Gone home. They have gone home.
Hey, I appreciate you calling me back on your when you laid out today. This
Where'd the old town go? They moved it all north of here in a shopping mall. Ooh, where'd the old town go? Did my hometown get old or just me? Did all my friends get old or just me? Are they all gonna have to be told or just me?
Welcome back to Old Town Cleveland here on Whoop FM 99.9, or you can go to the internet at www.whoopfm.com. You can call us here at 614-5553. Charles, sometimes technology beats me here. I need your help. We got a caller here. Let's see if we can get him here. Go ahead. Good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning, Dennis.
Okay.
Hey,
Go
Dennis.
go ahead. You're live on the air.
Well, I just wanted to call in today and add my voice to certainly salute a fine man of God who had tremendous integrity and compassion for people. I remember him, first of all, as being a cook in youth camp. And anybody can feed kids in youth camp has to have a lot of patience. But he had a great impact on a lot of young ministers, and he was a man just by his force of character that just caused you to really love and appreciate him. I knew him even more in his last days in the prayer group there. And I just want to say that he would be absolutely proud of his boys.
Oh, sure.
Radio program today. So
I'm sure.
that's my part.
All right, guys.
Well,
Got
thank you for
anything you want to
calling
say
in.
to Dennis?
You know, I was shocked when Dad passed away, and I came in for the funeral and at the viewing. It started, at 6 o'clock and went solid till 10. But the number of ministers, many of them retired, who when they came through said, "You probably don't know this, but your dad let me preach my first sermon."
Yeah. So that's wonderful.
Well, you know, he pastored at Big Springs.
Yes.
And it was good to go to Big Springs to church, because if you went to Big Springs and you didn't attend that Sunday, you could always say Bed Springs, and they'd think you said Big Springs. Get out of it.
Yeah, you sound like a Lee student.
He was at a strategic location to touch a bunch of young preachers. Yeah. Well, listen.
Thank you so much, Dennis.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
You can call in at 614-5553 if you, particularly all you old Bradley students there. I know a lot of you said something.
Well, you done
on
called them
Facebook.
old, so they're not going to call in now.
You know, you can talk about Mike Smith, who's old, very old, and Louis Alford. I don't know. Does he know how to use the telephone? That may have been for his time there. I'd love that to be Louis. Good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Yes, sir. I'm Roy Pritchard, and I worked for John in 58, 59. I worked in the cafeteria with him, me and John Cross. And we had a black lady that worked with us named Ada Lou Ladd.
Ada Lou, what a name. Well, and
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I was just curious, how do you think he learned to cook for so many people at one time? Do you have any idea?
I don't know.
He just knew how to do it, didn't he?
Just knew how to do it.
Okay.
All of us folks that work for him with a lot of respect, and we appreciated that.
Now, were you a teenager at the time?
Yes, I was in the second year of high school.
Oh, okay. So you were a student working for him.
Yes, I worked. Me and John Cross washed the dishes.
Wash the dishes. Wow, that's a lot of dishes.
And you learned why education was important, right?
Yes, it was.
You know, Charles, you just made an interesting point. And again, a lot of times when you look back, things get missed. But he actually had both Anna, was it Anna Ruth?
Anna Lou.
And
Mary Lou.
But her daughter-in-law, Mary Ruth,
Mary
worked for him. He was one of the first establishments around town that actually hired blacks.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, Mary Ruth became probably my mother's best friend.
How sweet.
Her husband was a gardener for Reimers and other people, and Mary Ruth used to bring her irises. And I planted a lot of irises around our house. That came from him. It came probably from the Reimers yard when he would thin them out. But yes, there's a lot of things sometimes you don't think about until much later, but he probably was the first to have an integrated
excellent.
Had Bradley even integrated at that time at 58? No, I wouldn't think so.
Excellent.
That wasn't integrated until
63?
No, yeah.
No, it was 66.
I graduated in 66, and I went to school with the Scott boys.
Oh, yeah.
And Nathan Westfield. And
Bradford? Steve Bradford, yeah.
That was the first year, I believe.
I think so.
That was the year I think I did the year after I did my student
Mm-hmm.
teaching.
I think Jerry Frazier told us that Levi was the oldest. It probably came in.
No,
his brother.
His brother.
Is that
Terry?
Terry
Levi.
Terry Levi, and then Bones or Alvin. Of course.
Alvin's my age. I know. I think what Jerry said was after that first time that people saw him run down the court and slam dunk, just in practice.
They said integration's going to be good.
Integration was good. There. So, how long did you work through him through high school?
I worked the last year that Anna Ladd was. I think she was in charge of the last year, 57, 58. Then he came in 58, 59, and took it from there and went on.
Very good.
Good.
I worked with him that first year he was there, and I just wanted everybody to know that he was a fine person to work for, and he treated us all good.
Well, thank you so much for calling.
Y'all have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
You can call at 614-5553. We're here to 12 o'clock today, and so the first people getting woke up now. Good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning, Ron. This is Jerry Frazier. How are you?
Hey, Jerry Frazier.
How are you?
They all grinned when you said your name.
Well, let me tell you, I think the world of John and Charles and Steve, and known them all my life, I guess, or almost all my life. But I've enjoyed the program. Love the big family, and just go way back with them. While you're on the subject of Ladd, I spoke at Mary Ruth Ladd's funeral. She made yeast rolls, I think all Tamara ever ate for lunch was a roll and a glass of tea.
So, and what did you have though?
Well, actually, it's really strange. I ate lunch with Mr. Shue and Carl Miller most of the time. I had a third period study hall before lunch, and I could always slide up there early to Mr. Shue and the head custodian would be up there eating. I ate with them.
Well, now, Steve was saying, I think this was before we went on the air, not only did his dad serve fish, he served shrimp and oysters. Do you remember that?
I don't remember the oysters. I do remember the shrimp.
Yeah, I do.
Shrimp every Friday.
Well, yeah, the shrimp and baked beans, that's one of mine. And then goulash Thursday. Yeah, that was, so. Yeah, we had a lot of people eating in the cafeteria back in those days.
Yeah, most people did. Now, there was a snack shop across the street, and obviously some people went over there. A lot of crowd went over there, but some people would eat and then go over there, and then some people would go straight. I think the smokers went straight over.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, you did have the smoking area down there in the back that you could go to in those days.
Right.
But yeah, but it was a large. I'd go buy those quarter hamburgers and hot dogs and sit outside out there and eat. I was with the rowdy group.
Good days. And then my mom ended up being next door neighbors with Mr. Pig. Just prior to his passing. Of course, my mom's been gone a couple of years now. They were good neighbors.
Yeah, so now, what year did were you you came there after he started, right?
Yeah, he was there when I got there. I graduated in '66.
Right. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, hey Jerry, thank you so much. And I knew if anybody knew about food that you might be one of them. You and I and a couple other people in town.
And when you brought up Cowboys and everything, I just want to say hello to John and Steve and Charles. Hope they're having an awesome time.
All right.
I think they're all they're all retired or in the process of retiring. So they're looking forward to this new chapter of their lives, I think.
Good deal.
Hey,
right.
Thank you, Jerry.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Now, if you ever want to see Jerry, just be up at Hardy's on Key Street about
8 o'clock.
8:58 in the morning. He'll come in the door.
You know, all three of us boys married Bradley High School girls.
Oh, there you go. Bradley has pretty girls.
Yeah.
Right.
Now,
who did you marry?
My wife's name's Brenda.
No, my wife's name's Brenda.
But my wife's Brenda G.
My wife's Brenda G.
My wife went to Big Springs Elementary.
My wife went to Big Springs Elementary.
I met my wife at Big Springs Church.
I met my wife at Big Springs Church. We had a waitress. We went through this the other day in a restaurant, and she said, "You must be married to the same woman."
Well, I was starting to say that I bet family reunions are interesting.
Yeah.
My wife's last name was Wheeler. She was a Wheeler.
And mine was Stinnett.
Stinnett.
And Johnny was married to Carolyn Franks.
Carolyn
Franks.
And she passed away 5 years ago.
Oh, sorry.
Hey, go ahead, call you live on Old Town Cleveland.
That kind of sounded like who's on
first. That's it. We don't.
I think
We
they've
could do
rehearsed
that, Marilyn. We could do that with the Bandies, I think, couldn't we?
Yeah.
We've got what an odd name. This is my sister, Marilyn.
And the Bandies, and we confuse people real fast whenever.
We do. What's going on, sister?
Well, we're out on this Highway 11 yard sale.
You're buying somebody else's junk?
He's looking. I'm sitting in the car listening to you guys. I'm trying to be good. And he wanted me to call Debbie and remind her that he has a fish truck next Saturday at 11 o'clock at the Southeastern Farmers Co-op.
And if someone needs to order fish, they can call you guys at 478-2405 and pre-order. But if you happen not to pre-order, you can show up and take your chances of getting what you want.
Yeah, a lot of times they'll have what you need anyway, but it's good to have an order. That way you're pretty sure of getting.
Now, Marilyn, do you remember Mr. Pig from Bradley?
I remember Mr. Pig, and the one that said he graduated in '66. I believe I remember him. I think he looked a lot like his dad.
They all three look a lot like their dad.
So that's just what I remember. Is like
they look like a bunch of pigs. Yeah.
All them little piglets.
Yeah.
What I remember is the tuna salad. That was some of the best tuna salad, and I tried for years to figure out. I tried every seasoning and everything I could think of, and couldn't get tuna salad to taste like what they had at Bradley. And then Janice Allen at Oak Grove finally told me about putting a little bit of sugar in it to soften the taste of the tuna. And that's as close as I ever come to getting it to taste as good as Mr. Pig's was.
Well, now we all know the secret.
And now everybody can try that. Well, you were talking about how you figure out how to feed that many people. When you first start out, it's a lot of trial and error, and you always hope you err on the good side.
Marilyn worked in the cafeteria out at Oak Grove while I was out there. And what was the big joke about pound cake and you?
Mr. Rowe, that was out there for years, he'll still, when he sees me, he'll say, "Have you baked a pound cake lately?" They gave me a quart measure, and told me to measure the cake out, and I measured out twice as much flour as I needed. And when that cake was done, it weighed a pound.
A slice.
It tasted good. It was a little dense.
It's a little dense.
Mr. Rowe, he'll just light up when he sees me, and he'll say, "You baked the pound cake lately?"
Yeah, it was filling.
Yeah, it was very filling. You drank a cup of coffee of that, you didn't need
it's like rice. It would swell. Well, thank you so much for calling. Anything else?
We're enjoying.
All right, Marilyn. Bye-bye.
Don't buy too much junk.
Yeah, okay.
All right, bye-bye.
And we have to say happy birthday to our son. This week he turned 24.
Yes.
That's amazing since his mother's only 29.
And but he's still a kid. I think his birthday money he got, whoever gave him money, I know they bought a ukulele. Something he really needed was a ukulele. But he is a pretty good musician, so.
Mm-hmm.
And
he looked pretty excited about it in the picture we saw.
Yeah. Well, he excites easy. But,
he's really excited.
So we talked about, we hadn't got to, but the movies. What was the first movie you went and snuck and saw?
I don't remember. It was down at was it Starview?
Starview. Oh, you went to the drive-in. You wouldn't. Yeah. What about you? You remember yours? What's yours?
I don't remember either.
Oh.
I want to ask, but right before this picture that's up on the internet, there was a picture of, I guess, Mr. Pig with one of the little paper hats on from a restaurant. Who's in that picture with him? What child is that?
That's our sister.
That's your sister. And do you have any idea what that hat says on it?
I think it's a bakery hat. Is what I think it is, and not a restaurant, but a bakery hat.
Okay. It's a cute little picture for those of you who can't see it. And then the next picture Ron showed us was of a baptism. Do you know anything about that, Steve?
That was held at Stones Lake.
Okay. Can't do Stones Lake now. There's no fresh water running into it since all the construction.
My wife was baptized in Stone Lake.
Uh-huh.
Not in this picture,
no.
but...
I was baptized in the Conasauga River. And let me tell you, I don't care if it is 110 degrees outside. That water never gets above about 50 degrees. It's very cold.
I'm a Methodist. They just threw a little water on my head, and it got me. Go. So, and we got to the fried chicken quicker that way. So, same religion, just we're afraid of water. I mean, it's only the only difference, I believe. The other jokes about that, I'll stay away from.
We've heard them all, Ron. It's okay.
Your dad seemed like was a very religious man. He was always smiling when I seen him. And let's get this call, and I'll ask you, how strict do you think he really was? And give me an example. Good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Yeah, this is Henry Evans. I just wanted to call and say hello to the pigs and just let you know that we've been listening to you for a couple of minutes. And we used to be neighbors with the pigs there when they lived on Parker Street.
Very good. Very good. So you knew Reverend John?
Yes, I graduated with John.
Oh. Well, now we went.
Yeah, John and I.
Okay.
Well, and when didn't they have a sister?
Sarah.
So that's what I thought. Okay. Well, I just wanted to say hello.
Well, thank you for
Well, thank
listening.
you for listening, and thanks for calling.
All right.
Bye-bye.
For you people out there who are interested in calling, it's 614-5553. We're talking to the Pig family here today. We've got John, Charles, and Steve Pig, and their daddy was John Pig, Reverend John Pig, and also the cafeteria manager at Bradley Central High School from 58 to 73, 74, something like that. So, huh?
Probably 78.
78, okay. Good morning, live on Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning, Ron and Debbie.
Good morning, how you
sweetie. How are
doing?
you?
Doing sorry, I guess if you'll say it real quick. I just wanted to call in. I knew the boys when they were small, you know.
Well, wait a minute. Let's stop. Tell them who you are.
No, Ron can tell them who
Okay.
I am later, but I go by Joe.
Okay.
I thought the world of their dad. I'll never forget when he came to me one day. I think I told Steve up at one of the beauty shops what Reverend Pete said to me. He said, "If you ever need me, always call me, and I'll be here for you." I'll never forget that. But they mentioned Big Springs Church of God over here.
Yes.
I wish they had left it with that name instead of the name they've got. The church has definitely changed. It is not like it used to be. Dr. Reverend Beavers was over there, and I thought the world of him, which I'm a Baptist. I'm not Church of God, but I don't go for that. I go to a lot of times to the Church of God because I have a lot of friends, you know, they're Church of God. I have no complaints about the religion. But he was so nice, and I knew that a lot of them over there. But like I said, the church has definitely changed. There was an Indian came in over there and stayed, I don't know how long he stayed over there. But that was the hatefulest man I believe I ever met up to be a Church of God minister. But I think he went back to India, and I hope the Lord he never comes back over here. The preacher that's over there now.
Oh.
What? Joe, just go ahead and tell us what you really think.
He asked me if I missed him when he came in on a visit. I said no, because I wasn't planning on missing him. But I'll tell you why I don't like him. It's because I spoke to some of his members, and he came to me and asked me to not speak to him.
Oh, okay.
And I told the minister that's over there now, so he never mentions anything to me. But, no, I thought the world of the Pig family. They were great people. That's just all I can say for them. And I'll talk with you later.
Thank you, Miss Joe.
Hey, we'll play that song for you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Miss Joe always wants to hear just a swinging when we go off there.
I'm speechless right now. All right. How strict was you? What, you got one incident where you just really, you said.
Wait, let's do this. Who got in the most trouble?
Probably me. Probably me. I was more
Charles.
the rebel, and actually, even up until the time we got to college, he had a curfew for us for 10 o'clock.
Mhm.
And Steve and I would come in about 9:50, and we'd go to bed. And we had a door into our bedroom that went outside, and so we would go to bed about 5 after 10. We were out the back door. We had a 59 Ford that Johnny had originally had. We'd push it off and go out, and we wasn't necessarily getting into much meanness. A lot of times we'd go down to the radio station with Bob Refner, and we even learned to do pretty good. It's 11 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? Real well. And also,
so you hung out with Bob Refner, too.
We run around with Bob Refner some back then.
And you still turned out all right again.
Well, that's debatable.
That's two now.
Yeah. And then Roy Harrison, if you remember Roy, lived a couple houses down from us, and we helped him convert his garage into a den, and he put a pool table in, and we might be down at Roy shooting pool.
I started to ask you what'd you get into at 10 o'clock in Cleveland. That's funny. And so your dad never caught you, or if he knew, he never said anything?
He didn't know it until years later. We told him.
Did you get in
he
trouble
say
then?
boys will be boys?
No, he just sat and shook his head. We were down at Red Clay and Rattlesnake Springs when we told him. He just sat and shook his head.
Yeah.
We knew that we could turn the switch off on the car about a block up the street, and we'd coast into the front of the house, and you never heard it. So.
See, kids can't do that now because the lights on the car automatically come on and go off.
So now, did all three of you run around together when you were younger, or did you? The older brother say, "Leave Steve at home."
He didn't like us.
He's going to have to defend himself. This is John.
Yeah, I was always playing some kind of sports,
Mhm.
and of course they didn't particularly care for sports as much as I did. I mean, I'd play 24 hours a day if I could back then. Well, I would now if I could.
You were the jock, right?
Well,
the jock of the family.
I enjoyed it,
You know,
yeah.
you guys grew up in that time where we had so many street racers around here. Did you ever go watch the folks do the street racing?
Oh, no. We'd never have done that.
I somehow sensed some sarcasm in his voice.
I remember drag racing a few times there at the Monument, you know.
There was I don't. Was Victor Hicks after that? Who all was some of the
Victor
racers?
is just about 2 years behind you.
Snake
68.
Man.
Yeah,
Hayward
Steele,
and
and I don't know what
Fat
Fat
Cat.
Cat's real name is.
Fat Cat. That's what I was thinking. If you had the, was it
55
55 Chevy?
Chevrolet.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
Fat Cat was on our show.
I never
not too
remember
long
Fat
ago.
Cat's real name. I've called him Fat Cat, and I didn't know Snake Man.
Larry, somebody.
Someone could tell us that.
Hayward Steele and who were some of the other racers, Ron?
So now, well, my cousins, the Eppersons, Bruce and Tobe Epperson. Bruce was there, probably a freshman when you were there, and you were
But there were
probably
a
a
lot
sophomore
of
when Bruce was there.
It was very organized. Went down to the Stevenson place down on Dalton Pike and raced. And I was just thinking that y'all were from that time frame where
No, we wouldn't have been involved, and we would never have circled a mud hole. We'd
Oh,
never
no.
gone down there. No, we'd never done anything like that.
You didn't stay and watch any of the fights or anything, did you?
Of course not.
No.
Now,
Of course not.
while we were on the break, we were talking about how your dad would help other people cook. Who would like to tell that story or talk about that? Steve will.
I've just had several people tell me that I didn't really know about. Some of it I did. I know he used to cook at Holiday Inn. He would help them out in the summers when he wasn't at Bradley. He would cook there. Corky McGowan told me one day that my dad would come into the Sugar and Spice and help them out. And last night I was in Bryant Garden Center, and Gary Bryant mentioned that I believe it was his uncle that owned a barbecue restaurant. He said your dad would come and help him out. So he loved to cook.
Somebody said when he had, one of you, I think maybe you, John, said when the guy'd take a vacation at Holiday Inn.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To Holiday Inn, right.
Yeah, go tell that story there real quick.
Well, I think he was
No,
just.
you told that story. Yeah.
No, it wasn't Holiday Inn, but when we would go to Gatlinburg on vacation.
No, you told the story about
he told about
filling in for the manager at the Holiday Inn.
I think that was John.
That was Johnny told that
Oh, was
story.
it? Okay.
Well, John, you tell that story, then we'll tell about the Gatlinburg story.
Yeah, what he would do, I guess, when the manager of that did the cafeteria or the food there would take a vacation, I think the guy's named Turpin that ran Holiday Inn at that time.
Lynn Turpin.
He were good friends with, and also Cletus Benton. So Dad would run that restaurant for that week that the guy would be off, and then they'd always put it in the paper that he was going to be there for that week, and they said the business would pick up that week, just because he was.
Well, what a. Yeah, and you said you went to Gatlinburg a lot, right? When you were
We went
kids?
to Gatlinburg a lot. When we would go up there, Chimney House Restaurant was owned by Bill Deitch. Bill Deitch was a good friend of Dad's. And we'd go up there, and in a minute Daddy would be missing. He'd be back in the back cooking. In fact, one of the things that we had a lot of fun with for years is we were there waiting for a waitress one day, and he disappeared. The waitress came out, and there was an extra chair there, and we invented George went with us to Gatlinburg for years. Had an empty chair, and we really drove a few waitresses kind of batty. And my wife was telling just a couple of days ago, the first trip she went up with us, and she kept looking for George because we kept talking about George and the empty chair for him. And so it was, and my mother was a very quiet woman, but she's the one that got it started, actually. And it just kept going on for years. George went to eat with us.
So this one was your dad or your mom?
My mom's the one that got George started because the empty chair was because Dad was back to back cooking.
Well, about discipline at your house. When you got in trouble, who got the stick or the belt?
Both. Dad more than Mother, but Mother was pretty strict disciplinarian as well.
She'd hold her own.
So
yes.
You never told them where you got your moonshine or your whiskey or stuff or beer from, right?
Lots of things we didn't tell.
Lots of things we didn't.
You want to share it now, or?
We were perfect children. We didn't have any vices.
John, what about you?
Well, I could say my age now, I've never had a drink in my life. Because like I said, I was always involved in sports, and I didn't think that's good. I didn't smoke or drink. I was just, and him raising me that way is probably the reason I didn't. But I went through the service.
But I'm sure at the Mud Hole and some of those places, you've seen some boys probably having a little half pint. And
no, I don't know anything about that.
What about you, Steve? You grew up more, of course, they're closer to me here now.
But I've never had anything to drink either.
Good.
Well, good.
I'll be 67 in August, and I've never had any. Why start now?
Why start now? Steve, let me ask you a question. What about ice cream? Did you ever go to Dooley's?
Oh, yeah.
What'd you think about that?
Well, my favorite was grape, as like a lot of people, and lemon custard. I remember the snowballs.
Oh, yeah.
You could get there. We would go quite frequently.
Did you ever go to the assembly when it was open?
No, I never did.
Church Got a Prophecy Assembly?
Yeah.
Just walk around.
I've been known to go walk around it a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we did. We just walked around and tried to figure out what was going on.
You know,
it was almost like a carnival atmosphere on the outside.
You know, and it was like a carnival.
Well, you know, and by the time you guys come along, the Church of God and the Church of God of Prophecy had definitely come to a split.
Right.
Yes.
Well, they had split years before, and I found this interesting that they were both the Church of God for a long time, and the courts here in Bradley County at the courthouse decided the name of one of each of the churches, the Church of God, and one was the Church. I thought it was just something that they had done, but actually a court decided the names of those two churches. I thought that was pretty interesting.
It all went back to the first general overseer, A.J. Tomlinson, and the split when the Church of God wanted to elect every so often general overseer. Bishop Tomlinson wanted to stay, and there was a split, and he pulled off, and they did both coexist for several years before the Church of God of Prophecy took on the name of Prophecy. And again, I believe that was in 55 when
somewhere
something
around
like that.
It was in the 50s, right? You know, and the big reason, you know, they were both the Church of God until about 55.
Right.
But the problem was people were mailing their donations, and they were concerned that this one was getting their donations and they were getting their. So basically they got in an argument who could use the name, and actually went to a civil suit, you know.
Yeah, it was.
So I just thought that was interesting there, and that there's definitely a split, and it continues, I guess, till today still. So
it's still two organizations, but the churches have become much closer together now. And I think there's been a lot of hurt that has been healed over time.
I think so, yeah. I think it's changed a lot. But one time there was quite a bit of rub there. When you went to Bradley, who was the principal when you...
Bill Schultz.
Bill Schultz? Schultz, yes. Yes, I thought he was been there. And
so you guys knew Mrs. Clemmer.
Oh,
yes.
She
was a legend.
She left my sophomore year. I guess about the time you started, she was leaving.
Mr. Dowdy took over.
Mr. Dowdy, yes. Yes. All right. So, Mr. Schultz, people told me that they didn't understand. I said, well, when we were there, your hair couldn't touch your ears. And I grew up in a time when long hair was pretty much, and you couldn't have facial hair or sideburns or anything. And if you did, he had a razor there in his drawer, and he'd take you down and let you shave. Do you ever remember those stories? Or?
No.
Oh, well, my freshman year, Lynn Brownlee was his name. He was playing football. He had long blonde hair, very neat long blonde hair. He looked good when he run down the field and it blowing out the back of his helmet. He looked cool. And Mr. Schultz expelled him because he wouldn't cut his hair. And it went to court, big court battle over it. And the school system won, saying that Mr.
No, the school system lost.
No, he never come back to school.
Okay.
He won that one. And Lynn Brownlee, I don't know what happened to him. I mean, I'm sure he went on to school somewhere, but it wasn't at Bradley High School. So that's the type. But Mr. Schultz was a very honest and straightforward man. And later on, when he was at the mayor of Cleveland, I was there in the meeting with him, and I told somebody he was my principal, and he looked at me and says, "I'd rather you say that we went to school together." So he did have a good side to him. Yeah, who was your favorite teacher at Bradley?
Rodney Fitzgerald's mother, Mrs. Fitzgerald in English, was my favorite, and second favorite would probably been David Grantier.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I've never heard that
if you
name
had Miss
before.
Fitzgerald, you're one of the smarter students. You know, I didn't have the smart English teachers.
David, what did David teach? Charles?
He taught physics and advanced math and algebra, and he was quite a character. Quite a character. He lived down at Collegedale, and they were building 75 at the time. He would come to work and remember where every place he saw a bottle, Coke bottle, and going home he'd stop and get them all, and he was selling them, raising money so he'd go back to school and become a medical doctor.
Oh, I love it. You'd have to sell a whole lot of bottles to do that now.
He did make it, didn't he, Steve?
John, who was
Ernest Adams? Probably mine, because I had vocational drafting 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, interested in engineering, that's the reason. So Ernest was mine.
He was very good, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
It's totally different now, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You had to have CAD classes now, not.
Right. Well, you can't do anything without a computer now.
Yeah, it's.
I remember when those guys would first strap on those slide rules or whatever they were.
Yeah, I still have mine.
Yeah.
Do you still pull it out and use it sometime?
I don't know if I could use it or not anymore.
Yeah, really.
But yeah, it's totally different. If you know what to tell it to do, the computer is great.
Right.
But did you miss drawing things by hand, doing that?
Yeah, well, even when they had the CAD, being an engineer, I didn't get to get in a CAD that much anyway. But I had my own little portable thing that I'd carry when I go to the field. I did heavy industrial, like pulp and paper mills and that kind of thing. So I'd carry that with me, and I'd still do my stuff.
Still draw it out
by hand to start with, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, who was your basketball coach there?
It's Hubert Black.
Hubert Black, okay.
At Lee, yeah.
No, at Bradley though.
Oh, I didn't play basketball at Bradley.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I played Y-ball during.
Okay.
I was at Mayfield, back of our house in Park Street, and they were playing in industrial leagues. And the team didn't have enough players when I was about a sophomore, so they asked me, "Can you play ball?" So I went and got my shoes, and I played with it from then on. So I played that, and I would work during the weekends. But then I lived at the gym there at Lee and got to know the coaches real good, and so that's one reason I went to Lee to play.
Okay. Hey, go ahead, caller. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning, Ron, Debbie, and the Big family. This is Freddie Coleman.
Hey, Freddie, what are you doing, buddy?
I've just been listening and reminiscing with you, and I wanted to call in and tell you that I think that Mr. Pig was one of the greatest assets that Cleveland, Tennessee ever had. I first met him back about 1964, I guess it was, and Steve and I were working together in a little grocery store down at 3 Point. And I've known him ever since then. And then a few years later, I know that Ron and Debbie find this hard to believe, but I was the family training hour director at the Mount Olive Church of God.
I do find that hard to believe.
and it was my responsibility to acquire a speaker for the Wednesday night service.
Mm-hmm.
And I had asked Brother Pig to come and speak one Wednesday night, and he so graciously accepted. and he stepped up behind the pulpit and looked out at the congregation and said, "Isn't it amazing how many people will come to hear a pig preach?" But I've known him for quite some time, and I've known Steve and Brenda for quite some time, and I consider them like family to me, and I love them very much, and I really loved and admired their dad.
Now, Freddie, I want to point out we got 3 brothers on here on this show talking, and you need to get your brothers to come in and do a show with us, too.
Oh, my. Oh, my. That would be a show for sure.
Well, we can probably put dividers between you so there would be no fights.
But I just want to call in.
Thanks, Freddie.
My appreciation for Mr. Pig.
Appreciate you, buddy. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, bye, Freddie.
I wanted to mention that next week's show's still kind of up in the air. We've still working on confirming that one, and the week after that, we're going to have Doug Mizell in that's going to do a show for us, give us a day off, and then coming up June 6th,
we're going to tell the story of Homer Simpson,
the real Homer Simpson.
Did you know there was a real Homer Simpson?
And he lived right here in Cleveland.
He was the chief of police of Cleveland, Tennessee, twice, and then a year later, he was put to death in an electric chair in Georgia for murder and bank robbery. Besides that, the story's boring.
Ron says it's probably the.
His father was.
It needs to be a movie.
His father was very involved in the development of the Church of God, also. So it's got a little bit of everything. It ought to be a movie.
So you can buy that book down to Museum Center if you want to read the book before we talk about
the
it.
Real
Let's get
Homer
this call.
Simpson. Good morning, you live on Old Town Cleveland.
What do you say, Ron?
Hey, how you doing?
Doing all right. This is Bubba Cry in Cleveland.
Hey,
Cry. How are you, sir?
Hey, Bubba. Well, some lies will be told now. How are you doing, Bubba?
Well, I'm doing okay. Still a little dizzy, but I'm driving and ain't hit anybody yet, and I don't waver on the road, so evidently it's pretty good.
Just lean a little bit, and it'll keep you from being so dizzy.
How you doing?
I am doing excellent. I'm halfway through my radiation and well on my way to being recovered, I believe.
Gosh, well, I owe this phone call to Sally Stanifer because she put on Facebook that John, Charles, and Stephen's going to be on the show today. And I turned it on, and I can't. I think I told you it says something about Adobe, so I can't listen to the show, and I don't know much about computers, so I didn't ever add the.
Well, if you were close, we'd send Charles over to fix that for you, but you're not too close.
That's right. That's right. But I wanted to call in because I haven't seen. I see some posts on Facebook, Charles, and then Stephen. I see from time to time people have mentioned him, and I just wanted to tell you that Mr. Pig made one of the finest meals. I mean, he not only fed me, it probably helped me hold up the rest of the class with my educational skills.
I believe we were in the same class, weren't we?
Yeah, we got 66, Steve.
Oh, no, you were the one with Steve. Yeah, you were the one with Steve.
Steve, yeah, I graduated with Steve. Yeah, Charles was too. I think Charles was 64, I believe.
That's correct.
Yeah. Now, John, are you older, John, or younger than the other two?
I'm older. I graduated in 61.
61, okay. All righty. I guess that's why you'd already left the time I got to Bradley. But,
right.
Yeah, Steve and I were in some classes, I guess, in school. And, of course, like I say, my poor average held up everybody. It makes everybody else look real good in my graduating class.
You helped the curve, though, a lot.
I'm disappointed that Sally hasn't called in. She should have called in and said hi to the Pope.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. I saw that, and I said, man, I got to call in. And so I've been outside. My neighbor came over and talked to me a little bit, and we jabbered a while. And I got back in. I said, gosh, I'm going to turn it on. I turned it on. I can't listen to anything because something I've got to install in order to pick up Whoop Radio anymore. But I just wanted to call and tell you that was the finest food. I've bragged about it to people over here as I've gone around. I said, when I was in high school, we didn't have to worry about the food. I said, the food was excellent. I said, you knew every day pretty much what was going to be, and you had some choices, too, each of those days. I said, the only thing you had to watch out for is people loosening your salt shaker lid. So when you turned the salt shaker up, it didn't all the salt went into your plate.
What was your favorite thing he cooked? Do you remember?
Well, I don't remember. I didn't eat macaroni and cheese, but it seems like he made a dish with that I would get that had green peas and macaroni and cheese, and he got me eating macaroni and cheese, and something else. I forget what it. Maybe was it salmon croquettes or something. I don't remember but I didn't eat hamburgers. I mean, I ate the meals up there, and Sherry West was the lady that took the money. Was one of the ladies that took the money, the lines. But we'd go in there and eat that, and then walk down to FFA and have a bag of popcorn and a cold drink. And
I have never been able to live up to Mr. Pig's reputation for goulash. Ron would find a recipe and go, fix this for me. And he'd go, no, that's good, but it's not Mr. Pig's.
That's right.
Well, I tell you what, he could cook. And over at Arnold, when I went to Arnold, Randy Fox's grandfather, Mr. Watson, Harold Watson, I think was in charge over there. And I mean, I had some good food. And of course, they had a portion type place up at Bradley. You could get a Coke if you wanted a Coke. You could get tea. And of course, you always had milk over at Arnold because you were too young, I guess, the way they did it. But anyway, the food as I went through school was good. But Mr. Pig, they gave you a plate, and it was filled up. You had a good meal, and it seemed like there was cornbread that we had too that I really liked too. The Fox would always go across the street over there to the snack shop. He didn't eat. I don't think he said he ever ate a meal in the cafeteria.
He had to go smoke, didn't he?
Oh yeah, you had to go smoke across the street. But see, the only time I ever went to that place over across the street was we had to do it for Bachelor's Club, and y'all remember Bachelor's Club, I'm sure. And we had to go over there whatever time it was. If it was one time, two times, I don't remember. But nevertheless, we had to go over there. But as far as my meals, I ate in there with Mr. Pig. He had really good food. I wanted to ask, would he still be living, Mr. Pig?
No, he passed away about 8 years ago.
2005.
2005.
Mm-hmm.
2005?
88
10
years old.
ago. 10 years ago. He was 88.
Well, he was a pastor. He was a preacher, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
That's what I was thinking. Okay. All right. That's why you boys turned out so good. That's what it is.
Maybe you should have went to a few services yourself, Bubba.
Well, listen, I just had to call in when I saw they were going to be there, and it's good to hear from you again. And Stephen's even our graduating class invited him to. We're going to have his truck going by. I'm sorry.
Are you playing in the traffic again, Bubba?
We're going to have 50 years coming up in 2016, and I guess y'all know that we were the 50th. Whenever we had our 1966 graduating class, we were the 50th class, and 2016 will be the 100th anniversary of a graduating class of Bradley High.
Right.
That's right.
So I hope to get to go see the ceremonies and see how things have changed in 50 years.
There you go, Bubba.
I went to my 10-year reunion. There was a bunch of old people there.
And good to talk to everybody again. And,
Thanks, Bubba.
And as I say, y'all got Randy Fox and Charlie McKenzie that y'all got to deal with, and I know you got your hands full. And their cohort, Doug Guerin, moved to Selma, Alabama, by the way. That's why you don't hear from him much anymore.
Yeah, we miss his calls, especially when the Cranes are in, and he usually gave us a daily update of those.
Well, I told him y'all do like I do. I said, I can't pick it up. But I said, your phone works, Doug. Give him a call. I'll give you the phone number. I remember the phone number. So maybe I can get him to call in. He calls me.
Well, tell him we're missing him.
All right, I certainly will. And best to everybody. Good to talk to you.
Thank you, Bubba.
Okay, bye-bye.
There's a legend in his own mind right there.
We love Bubba.
Bubba had been a little sick there, and so he hadn't called in a while. So he's in South Carolina, I believe, where he's at. Is that right? South Carolina? North Carolina.
One of those Carolinas.
Yeah, he's been over there.
Long time.
Some kind of salesman over there. Yeah. So what hadn't we talked about today about your dad? I mean, I'm still stuck on goulash. I'm so darn hungry now. I'm about to die over here going.
He's wasting away to nothing.
Yes.
There's one story that I wish the lady had called in. Willie Gregg.
Oh,
Everybody
yeah.
knows Willie Gregg, and I know she's been having some health problems lately. But she told me a few weeks ago at church. I go to church with her, and she said, "You know, Steve, if it hadn't been for your dad, I wouldn't be a Christian today."
Mm-hmm.
She said, as a child, her dad was a paraplegic and couldn't get around very well, and he had moved him way out in the country. And said, your dad pastored Blue Springs Church of God, which was in the old school building. And she said every Sunday morning he'd pick us up and take us to church. And she said if it hadn't been for that, she said I would be a Christian today. So that's the stories I wish people had called in with. 'Cause we've heard a lot more stories than what people have called in and told.
Yeah.
I think his cooking was just a tool he used to do ministry.
Right. Oh, yeah. It just.
I think so too.
You had to help pay the bills, you know. You had to feed the family and put a house. So I done that, but you know, I think his real love was the church. And do you have any other stories about your dad that no one's told you?
I think one of the most interesting things I was telling you about his having his thumb shot off was if you ever saw Dad make donuts, he could flat make donuts and he would flip them and catch them on the other thumb and then throw them out. It was just amazing to watch him do it. And he had one of the most beautiful handwritings. And he had to hold the pen was really something, but he had a beautiful handwriting.
I had never noticed that, you know, growing up, you know. But
that's because you were staring at the goulash.
I was staring at the goulash, you know. So what about you, John?
He made the Krispy Kremes before there were any Krispy Kremes. I mean, that's exactly what they taste like.
Yeah.
They were.
Oh,
see, it just amazes me how he learned to do all that.
I remember the days when I could eat donuts too. That's bring back good memories.
Haven't had one in a long time.
Yeah, and, you know, they have that. You go by the Krispy Kreme, they have that hot sign. In my car, just there's
even our 2-year-old knows what
there's a
means.
drive. It just sort of turns, you know, automatically, and but I try not to eat them. That
now, where is your father buried?
Hillcrest.
Hillcrest. I was just. Okay, Ron, that's one person I didn't know where they were buried. Ron
it's
thinks I know
very
where.
unusual. She knows where everybody is. So, now, so we're getting towards the end of the day. If you want to call 614-5553, we're at the end of the day. Just think here for a second and say, tell me what you want everyone to know about your dad and about his memory and your mom. You know, we want to know from your heart the memories about your dad. So, Steve, you want to start?
Well, I just, because of my dad and my mom, I inherited a name that has made my life easy here in Cleveland. He was a man of highest integrity, and I've tried to carry that on as well as Charles and John have. And I've tried to instill that into my sons and now my grandchildren, that, you know, they've inherited a good name. And if they'll do what they're supposed to do, they'll reap benefits from it. So.
That's true.
You're true.
That's Thank
true.
you.
Yeah. Well, you know, from him being a hard worker like he was, I guess he taught me anyway, work ethics, and it's really my whole work days. You know, it's really helped me. I know. And
people don't work like they used to. I mean, like our generation, you know, being in management for a long time. About 15 years ago, I seen a major change in the workforce coming through, and they don't understand getting your hands dirty, working all day, and they don't understand. I'm not saying I shouldn't paint that with a broad brush. I see more of them that way, but you know, it seems like
you're taught, you know, do it right, make sure it's right, and that's something that really helped me in my career. As I went, and you don't find that much anymore. There's still some around. But
sure.
And I think those two things that they've mentioned, integrity and work ethic, but a third thing was a sense of humor. And even through the worst of times, we had a son who had a form of muscular dystrophy that we lost in 2008. And through that all, being able to keep a sense of humor, I spent many hours on conference calls working for the bank. And invariably on those calls, I'm going to introduce myself as somebody else or use the name Carlos Puerco, which is Hispanic. Do something, and during the meeting, I will come up with something totally frivolous to break the mood. And that was a lesson I learned from him, is always have a sense of humor, always be willing to smile, because life really isn't as bad as you think it is. There's something better coming.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Well,
it's always amazing how fast this time passes.
Yeah, and like I say, in about Tuesday or Wednesday, this will be on YouTube, and so you can. We'll send that link out, and you can watch it again and see it, and pass it on to families. We have some people Saturday mornings, or sometime people can't get to this show, and then they watch it later in the week and everything. You know, like I say, you'll be able to see it and all the pictures on here. So if you remember, Old Town Cleveland has a Facebook page, but if you want to join it, you can't join Old Town Cleveland's Facebook page because Facebook only allows you to have 5,000 friends, and we got 5,000. So we have Friends of Old Town Cleveland. Go to Friends of Old Town Cleveland, which is a group, and anybody that wants to join that can. And so, and you get the same pictures and stories and things, and we'll put the links on there. So, folks, that's been our show here. We now what's the phone ring now? Every week we tell our listeners the same thing I told that lady earlier. Your sister is pull the pictures out of the drawers and out of the shoe boxes and get you some white labels and start writing on it. Talk with your grandparents and your parents, your aunts, your uncles, anybody you can, and write down their stories, record their stories, because the day they pass, a lot of history passes. And I'm really afraid as this new generation comes along that we may not have digital pictures. You know, no one, if your phone messes up, you lose all your picture. If your hard drive crashes, we don't have those copies anymore. So just worry about that in the future generations. Hopefully technology will be better than we save those pictures forever. But write down your stories. Your phone will record people now. You can take videos with your phone. One of my greatest possessions is my grandfather. My cousin Bruce Epperson recorded him, and just to put that tape on and listen to his voice again, it just is really amazing. So we encourage you to try to save history. That's what we try to do here every week on Old Town Cleveland. So, folks, thank you so much. Charles, John, Steve, thank you so much. I was looking forward to just sitting here talking about Mr. Pig all week. That was just one of the thrills. And, you know, when I know Mike Smith was one of the people who says, you need to get Steve and his brothers on here. And I'm so glad Mike brought that up, and you guys agreed to be here. Thank you so much. And hope you listen and call in sometime with your stories. And thank you so much. Folks, that's been it. Deb, you got anything you want to talk about?
No.
Well, are you sure now?
Yeah,
are you
sure.
definite about that?
I'm sure.
Okay, folks.
See you guys next week here on Old Town Cleveland. Bye.
Where'd the old town go? They moved it all north of here in the shopping mall.
You are listening to WOOP-LP, Cleveland, Tennessee. WOOP FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.